Greetings and welcome to an LGR restoration repair kind of thing. This is not a very pretty computer. It never has been. That's never been the point of it. This is just my go-to Windows 98 capture PC, as I've referred to it over the years, that I've had ever since I started LGR, before that even. In fact, I still have my receipt from when I bought it January 30th, 2009 for $10 at a local Goodwill store. That was back when they still sold cases like these as just sort of bare bones units, but they actually had a lot of components in there even for $10. The only things they didn't have were hard drive and RAM. And I used to, when I didn't have a job back then, I just bought up systems like these, repaired them as cheaply as I could, and then resold them for a little bit of profit. And that's what I did to make money in between jobs in 2009. And then I started LGR some months after that and still had this computer lying around. I was like, yeah, you know what? This will make a nice little machine. And the time has come for this to get quite an overhaul. Not only is it looking kind of ugly, I mean, it always has. It's yellowed and dusted, and I've never really cleaned it or done anything like this. I know I normally show like pristine type machines here on my channel, but you know, for the ones that I just use as like an everyday workhorse that I'm really never going to show and don't care too much about, like physically, you know, aesthetically, I just throw things in here and swap components all the time. This is what happens. It just gets dusty and grimy, and there's parts lying around in here that I don't even know why they're here anymore. But that is what it is. And speaking of parts, all of these have been replaced pretty much at some point or another, except for, I think, the motherboard, the CPU, and I think that's it. I think everything else has been replaced several times over. CPU is probably fine, but the motherboard is definitely iffy. The IDE controller stopped working on it years ago, and I put this other kind of IDE controller board into a PCI slot, and that's controlling things, but that's always given me issues, and then the power supply has gone bad a couple times now. This is just some random one that I stuck in there because I had an extra, and it was fine for a long time, but now it's doing things like it's just powering on and off every so often. So I'm going to replace a whole bunch of things and really just give it a nice cleaning and maybe a new finish. I don't know, might paint it or something. When I bought this, I thought that I would paint it green, but I just never did. Maybe I'll go ahead and make that happen. Green sort of ended up being the LGR color anyway. Still though, as much as this needs an overhaul so I can get back to capturing things reliably, it's going to be kind of sad to see this configuration installation go away. I mean, look at this desktop here. Look at all these things that have been played and captured and turned into LGR episodes. Yeah, all of these icons have been LGR episodes, and many, many more things on this computer over the years. Some before this current installation of Windows even. I mean, there's just been a ton of work done on various versions of this Windows 98 capture PC, and that is why I'm going to dedicate the time to putting it back together. Yeah, I'm not trying to make my ultimate Windows 98 machine here. That is one thing I want to point out. Like, I'm not going to put the best of the best or anything. It's really just using most of the components that I have in here already, or at least a good chunk of them, but upgrading the ones that need it so that they're reliable. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes this doesn't turn on, like I said earlier, and when it does, it's very slow. I think the hard drive is going bad. It's also very noisy. Listen to this noise. You've probably heard it in the background of several of my videos. It's just way too loud. I want to go for quietness. So yeah, let's go ahead and start taking it apart, picking out the components that I want to keep, and what will be swapped out for something better. So yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I'll probably just leave it in here. You know, I've never been super fond of this case anyway. I don't like the design. I don't like the internal layout. I think it's kind of ugly. But I guess I'm going to keep it. I don't know. I have another case that I could use. I just don't want to. Like, I'm sort of attached to this nasty thing now. But this finish has got to go. Anyway, yeah, let's get these internal components out of here. You know, I think this will actually be the very first time that this thing has been fully disassembled. I just sort of tossed it together as I needed over the years and didn't worry about it. Yeah, I even put screws on the other side most of the time, just on this left-hand side. Yeah, this is a 40 gigabyte drive that I picked up at Goodwill for $6 or something back then. In fact, that's probably on the receipt as well. Yeah, this really is sort of an odd Frankenstein mishmash of parts that Yeah, I'm normally pretty particular about what I put in and don't put in a computer, but I don't even remember when I put this in there. What is this? Mitsumi D359T6. It's just a 3.5-inch floppy drive. It's just one that I picked out of a parts bin that worked, and that was fine. As long as it worked, it's all good by me. Now I have put a couple of different 5.25-inch drives like this and here. This one probably went in 5 years ago. This is a Toshiba ND0801GR. I'll probably replace this at some point because I don't know. I mean, it's a little beat up. It still works. It's just that it doesn't handle 360K discs at all. What even kind of screws are in there? Why on earth would I have used Torx head screws on the CD drive? I don't even know. Again, I guess it's just one of those things. It's like, these screws are here. It'll be fine. Yeah, I do remember putting this in there, though. This is another one of those cases where I just needed something that works. Something had happened, and there were 3 optical drives that just died in the span of like a year. I'm like, man, I'm tired of replacing these. It's a HP DVD 840 DVD burner with LightScribe. I don't remember what this was from. These clips. These held on a fan of some kind, like a CPU fan on here, and then the fan died, and then I just slapped this one on here. It's really not even on there. It's just it's just a couple of screws that I think this is a drywall screw, and this was already in there. It's just sort of jammed in place, and like, it's fine, right? We're gonna fix that. That's probably one reason it was really loud. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take this power supply out too, because yeah, you're getting a real insight of why this used to actually be lazy game reviews. It was just lazily slapped together. Well, honestly, it wasn't just laziness. It was more not having any money. So this is the most budget of budget builds ever. This whole thing probably has cost me like $50 over the years to keep maintaining, because yeah, most of the parts just came from, Goodwill and parts bins. So they were either really cheap or free. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what compact this came out of, but yeah, basic 250 watt thing. So here's one reason that I hate this case. Not only is it just full of really obnoxiously sharp edges, but there's parts of the case, like these little rivets, that stick out and make it so that you can't actually remove. You have to sort of move the card down and then slide out. It's really annoying. Anyway, this is the latest edition. I haven't actually had a chance to use this yet. It's just an Adaptec SCSI controller, but it was causing an IRQ conflict with this next card, which is the IDE controller, because the onboard one, once again, is not working. Promise Technology Ultra 66. Yeah, that I'm sure came out of a Goodwill parts bin. Got a PCI networking card next up here, which I actually do use all the time. Wow, that is super dusty. Yeah, it's just a basic Ethernet card for getting networking so I can communicate between that and my modern computers. And here is something I'm definitely going to be keeping because it's just a really good card. This is a Diamond Monster Sound. This is an Aureal Vortex 2 sound card for doing A3D hardware accelerated sound. Really good card, and it actually does some pretty decent AdLib and Sound Blaster compatibility. I mean, it's not perfect, especially in the AdLib sense, but it works, and it's really good for games from like 98 to 2001, which is really what this machine is made for. And last, but definitely not least, really the heart of this machine as far as what I decided to do with it. Another Goodwill pickup. This is a 3DFX Voodoo 3. I believe it's a 3000. It's a 16 megabyte AGP Glide accelerated card. It's got S-Video out and VGA. Ooh, I actually used to capture PC footage with that S-Video out on this card. That did not look good. Okay, got the RAM here. Probably hasn't been taken out since I installed it in 2009. Let's see, what are these? Spectec PC100 SD RAM sticks. 256 megs each. I don't know how well you can see that, but those are not supposed to be gray. Those are supposed to be black, but ew. And then the assembly here for the Athlon is still in place. I'm just going to leave that on there and take the whole board out, which I believe this will be the first time that this board has been removed from this machine, because I really never had a reason to. It came with it installed from Goodwill, from the factory, I don't know, wherever this was made originally. It's just some generic clone PC. I've had so many people ask me over the years, like, what do you use to capture Windows 98 games? Like, what computer and brand and model and stuff? I'm like, it's the Lazy Game Reviews Special. It's just generic, just a generic beige box with generic parts that have been thrown in there. Yeah, I can tell this hasn't been taken out since receiving it because all of the screws match. Every other thing that's been screwed in so far has had like a totally different screw. There we go. She's free. Wow. It's my first time seeing the back of this. Check that out. It's pretty unremarkable. I don't even know what kind of motherboard this is. BVK1A revision 1.0. I don't see any brand on here. ProComp. Yeah, I'm actually not super annoyed by this motherboard or anything. I mean, it had USB and, PS2 couple serial parallel. This for game port, built-in audio, which I never used because I use that All-Real Vortex. 5 PCI slots, 1 AGP over here, and then 1 ISA slot, which was very nice. I wanted that in a computer of this era because, well, I just do. This has been a good computer. Despite how disgusting it is, it really has been a good computer. Look, I even made a custom label for it at one point. It had some really gross stuff on top here that I was never able to remove, so I made this label and stuck it on there and put that like late 90s Mountain Dew font. Or maybe it was Cherry Coke. Either way, it was one of those radical late 90s, early 2000s typefaces that was everything was extreme. So anyway, it seemed a suited choice for this. But yeah, I don't like this case, but I'm going to clean it up anyway, and then we're going to put some new parts in there. Really hoping that it's not too big a deal to get the front of this case off, though. I've never tried. Oh yeah, there's some screws in these corners. I'm assuming that is holding the front of the case in place. Yep. That's definitely what those screws are doing. Good. So everything's out of here except for the PC speaker. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get that out of there other than just bending those little metal bits. Does the whole thing just slide out maybe? Oh, nope. That was that. Well, let's just put that back on there. Everything's fine. I think it does slide though. There it is. Yay. All right. Well, this is ready to be friggin' hosed down. It's all stormy outside, so I'll just use my extra bathroom. Oh, nasty. Why not give it a shower too? Alright. It's a good start. See, this thing is almost even more gross. Alright. Get this thing thoroughly dried off, and then we're gonna, I don't know, do something else to it. Does my computer need a doorbell? Does my computer need a washing machine? Does my computer need a this thing? LED lighting. No, that'd be stupid. Or I could add wood grain. It's not quite the aesthetic I'm going for, but some nice wood. Oh man. Here we go. Looking for Plasti Dip. Seriously, that's it? I got like 2 colors. I moved on to another hardware store and They don't really have what I'm looking for here either, at least not the color. They do have some other Plastidip and similar things, but I was really wanting a green. They do have some of these Krylon things. I've used these before on various computer cases. They work well, but again, not quite what I'm looking for. And I don't know, I just want to try the Plastidip thing just to see how it works. So on to next plan. Struck out a bit with the hardware stores, but had more luck in the automotive stores for what I was looking for. And this is pretty much it. And it's actually kind of close-ish to the dark teal that I was going for back when I wanted to first paint that computer, and did just a quick test of the finish, you know, just sprayed it on a piece of the front panel here, and I don't know, I think it looks interesting. That's just with one coating. Obviously it's going to get better as I apply more, but yeah, it's kind of a metallic green. Okay, I think these turned out rather nicely. Really don't even know how well this comes across on camera. In person, I think it looks pretty cool. Was able to get each panel coming out pretty even. The front was, of course, as I expected, the largest challenge. And I also ended up doing this like a silver highlight on those raised areas. And the power and reset button, I attempted to spray that as well, the same color. Just, I don't know, I just wanted to see how it would look. And not only did it not look particularly great, but the rubbery nature of the Plastidip made it so that the button would get stuck every time you pressed it in. So that was no good. So I just used some silver Sharpie to highlight that and the reset button and this to match. And yeah, I don't know, I think the whole dark shiny green and silver kind of works out. I was having fun, so maybe I got a little carried away, but so ended up getting the disk drives and painting those as well. And I've got the optical drive drying at the moment, being green. I don't know, I just never seen drives this color green, so why not? And it's about time to get the case assembled and see how it looks all together. Yeah, just to kind of get a general idea there. Haven't actually screwed anything back together yet. Sure, I could have used Retro Bright and made it yet another beige box, but I have 100 and something beige boxes. But only one rubbery dark green metallic thing. The different surfaces did pick up the Plastidip in different ways, like the front of the case ended up a little shinier than like around the top and sides and all that, but you know. I got the little LEDs here. And just sort of go back into place. Let's see, which one is this? Reset switch. And then the power switch. This kind of clicks in here as well. And that's it. And just string these back into place. And just get those screws back in place. Man, these are in such an awkward position. Okay, got the DVD drive stuff prepared. So there's the button, and that is going to go and clip right back into place right here. Yep, it moves. And if I were thinking, I would have taken out a little clear plastic bit for the LED to shine through, but I forgot about that, so yeah, we'll just go ahead and scrape that right back off of there, because thankfully Plastidip scrapes off of things pretty simply. And everything really just snaps back into place with these drives. Same with the front piece as well. Just kind of slides on the top here. And that's that. Okay, time to get to the internal hardware, and let's begin with the new motherboard. This is a Gigabyte GA-6VX C7-4X-P revision 5.0. Really rolls off the tongue. Now this is a Socket 370 compatible board here, so I'm going to be installing a Pentium 3 as opposed to the AMD Athlon that I had before, which was a slot A board. And the actual CPU I decided to go with is the fastest that this motherboard supports, and that is a Coppermine 1.0 gigahertz. This is the SL5B3 in particular. And I actually do have the fastest Pentium 3, the 1.4 gigahertz Tualatin, but I don't have a board that is compatible. Well, I do, but it doesn't actually have the features on the board that I'm looking for this particular build. But yeah, the other boards that I have that would support like the fastest Pentium 3, which, you know, I'm not going for the fastest here. I'm just going for something of this range, of this era of like year 2000, 2001 at the most. I like the fact that this has 5 PCI slots, universal AGP right here, and then 16-bit ISA down there. Most of the others that I've seen that support like the fast Tualatin chip are not going to have the ISA slot, which I really want. But yeah, I mean, it's similar very much to the other board, except that it doesn't bother with any onboard sound. I don't need it. I didn't want it. Got the serial parallel, 2 USB 1.1s, PS2 ports, and it supports up to 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, which I just happen to have. These are 512 megs each, PC133, 133 megahertz SD-RAM sticks, and I don't need that much. I don't need really. 512 is even like way more than I'll ever need for what I'm doing with this system, but you know, I've got it, so I may as well use it. 1.5 gigs of RAM would have blown my mind in 2000, 2001. And since I put this particular 1 gigahertz Coppermine Pentium 3 CPU in there, I do need to change some of these little switch settings on there. That'll change the bus speed and the clock multiplier, and according to the manual printout I have here from Gigabyte, I need those settings right there. There we go. Oh man, where did my sunlight go? It got really dark in here. Good grief. Yeah, there we go. So I'll need a CPU cooler, and instead of using like the stock Intel one that this board had originally when I got it whenever ago, I'm going to install this one here, which this is some sort of Antec cooler right there, and then a Noctua fan, because why not? It'll fit and it'll be quiet and cool, and that's the idea. I'm going to use a little Arctic MX4 because it's the thermal compound that I have on hand. Couldn't get it in there with the RAM installed, so I had to pull that out to fit that side. It's really cramped up against that. And the header for the CPU fan plugs in right here, so I'm just sort of, yeah. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and get the board installed in the case. Oh, wait. I have a new I/O panel, because this one, I don't need it anymore. Alright, now we're ready. Yeah. And while I'm getting this screwed into the offsets, let me just point out one thing that is kind of annoying with these later boards that have ISA and PSI. Oh, pounds per square inch. No, PCI slots. So if you might see down here at the bottom, these two are actually really close together, which means that you can only install either the ISA card or a PCI card because of the way, well, they're shaped. PCI cards go in facing this way, which you can see overlaps that ISA card a bit, and when ISA cards go in, they're, you know, the chips are on the other side and it sort of faces the opposite direction. So that means that if you install an ISA card, this PCI slot, you can't fit anything into it, so you're stuck with 4 PCI. And, you know, it's a trade-off because, again, you want legacy support, or do you want to make use of all the other more modern stuff? That's just kind of what you get on ATX boards of this type. Okay, next I'm just going to go ahead and start plugging in the switches and LEDs and on the PC speaker and all these wiry things. I mean, I can barely read the legend for that on the board, but I think I can see it. All right, that should be everything. I suppose that I need a power supply. I suppose. And so yeah, I ended up replacing it with this one right here. This is an A-Open. It's a little bit newer, a little bit more high power. It's a 300 watt. Crucially, it has like the negative 5 volt rail and running older peripherals and ISA bus and all that kind of good stuff. Somewhat annoyingly, you have to hold it in place because it doesn't actually slot in exactly the right spot and just rest there. Tired of watching me screw yet? That one connection to the motherboard, and that's it for that. And we'll say goodbye to cable management because that's just not going to happen with this Medusa thing going on here. Okay, let's go ahead and get some of these cards installed. I'll start with the Voodoo 3 card here, which doesn't want to fit. Stupid case strikes again. See, it's got these little rivets. I might have mentioned that earlier. Those rivets suck. Like, why are they right there? We have to plug in cards. It's dumb as hell, dude. Dumb design. Next is the Auriel Vortex 2 sound card. Plugs into the first PCI slot here. And we've got the CD audio cable here for the connection to the CD-ROM once we get that plugged in. See, which am I going to do next to have a SCSI controller and Ethernet? I'm going to do Ethernet. And SCSI. Yeah. So I've got some expansion options for oddware and such in the future. Let's fill up these drive bays. 5 1/4 inch floppy. Gonna start getting tricky if I don't get some cables in there. So I got this green IDE cable, which I will use for the optical drive. There we go. I only have one of these cables, unfortunately, but yeah, I think it looks kind of neat, sort of. And I'll just plug this in right here, I guess. No, right here. Which one is number 1? The red one, of course. So I'm gonna plug it in to number 2. Got this annoyingly floppy cable, plugs into the controller right there. So this is why I'm like, yeah, we're just going to give up on cable management before we even start. It's just going to be a mess no matter what. And lastly, in terms of removable media, 3.5 inch floppy disk drive. And while I could go all Drago 1 and go with SSDs or something, I'm going to go with this Maxtor Diamond Max 10 120 gigabyte PATA 133 hard disk drive because, I don't know, man, it works. I had one of these and, you know, perhaps I'll do something else later on. I was thinking of doing an SD card interface just because of how much I swap things out, and I don't really need a spinning hard disk platter in this. It's just a project box. I'm not going for authenticity, and really this thing is way too high capacity to be authentic anyway, so whatever. I had it lying around. And another IDE ribbon cable crammed in here somewhere. Oh my goodness. There we go. Beautiful. And by that I mean ugh. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's not blocking the fan, so that means it's good. Coming together quite nicely. Let's go ahead and make sure everything works. Get it powered on before completing the rest of it. All right. Moment of truth. No power plugged in. Well, my moment of truth is that I'm an idiot. Moment of truth. Ooh, we got power. I don't see my LEDs turning on, so I probably plugged those into the wrong spot, but whatever. Okay, good. Good so far. Sweet. Pentium 3, 1 gigahertz, 1.5 gigs of RAM. We'll hit delete to enter the setup. It still actually has the correct date, almost the correct time. And we've got the hard disk and the DVD-ROM detected. And it is very quiet, which is very much what I was going for with this. Power supply fan is quiet. Of course, that Noctua fan is quiet. Hard disk is quiet. Everything's pretty quiet. Compared to what it had before, yeah. I'd say that's a solid upgrade. Now we got our SCSI controller right there, so that's a plus. It thinks that is disk A. It is not. I definitely have something mixed up with the floppy disks. I'll fix that up and we'll come back and get Windows 98 SE installed. Okay, so I got the LEDs fixed. Floppy drives are now in the proper order. It was determined by the cable, and the cable was not physically long enough, so I had actually moved the 5¼ inch down here to make it fit. Otherwise, I would just swapped A and B in the BIOS, but you can't do that. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, let's go ahead and see if we can get Windows installed. Check out that hard drive. Well, this is seeing it as 48 gigs, not 120. The BIOS was seeing it correctly, but now just get rid of that and see what happens. Now begins the arduous process of doing FDisk and formatting and all that stuff before we can install Windows. So, yep, we will return once this finishes. Screw it, ain't nobody got time for that. I have one of these SD card interfaces that'll plug into IDE, and I'll be able to use an SD card as a hard disk. So, that's what I'm gonna do for the sake of my own convenience and sanity. After all, this is a project box, and I swap files in and out of here all the time, so it just makes sense. And this mounts in the back on one of those empty spots, so I'll be able to just access it and pull the card in and out whenever I need to. And there we go, detected straight away. 32 gigs. Not as much as the 120 gigs that I was going to use, but I genuinely don't need that much space anyway. It's just a drive I had lying around. Gonna go ahead and run FDisk anyway. This will at least verify it, and it'll be all compatible with everything. I don't know. I've had some weird issues trying this before without going through this. It doesn't take long, thank goodness. Alright, MS-DOS partition created. Master boot record seems to be there. Just gotta format it. We'll be good to go. It likes what it sees. Should be pretty smooth sailing from here onward. Fingers crossed, knocking on wood grain. What do we name this? It's very green. Kind of a jolly green giant. A lazy green giant. How about that? Windows just got better. Just now. This very moment. Almost exactly 20 years later. Oh, now I'm getting old. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So it actually had a problem getting to this point due to the RAM, or rather the amount of RAM, I suppose. It was just like, oh man, you don't have enough RAM to run Windows. I'm like, So yeah, I took out 512 megs. We're down to 1 gigabyte of RAM, and then I booted up just fine. So at this point, we're just gonna go through all the driver installation process. I'm not gonna make you watch all of that, but we should be able to just get into some basic Windows here. And there we go. Don't have video drivers or sound or anything like that yet, but Windows is working. Just a note in post here, I was able to get the RAM sorted, a full 1.5 gigs later on. Just had to augment the system INI file with a couple of these lines here, and that was pretty much taken care of. I also decided to install the unofficial Service Pack 3, a cumulative update and set of patches of all sorts of official and unofficial stuff. Just makes Windows 98 SE a whole lot more enjoyable and more stable and updated experience. Anyway, back to the build. Well, we'll just get the drivers installed and be right back. Yeah, Windows 98. So, all the drivers installed just fine. Got a cheapo speaker plugged in. And this radical startup music. The exciting new world of Windows 98. So yeah, it's just Windows 98 SE. But everything's here, installed correctly. We've got all the things that we need. We got wavetable audio playback. Can play some Duke Nukem 3D Atomic Edition. So yeah, Sound Blaster compatibility. I don't know what that sound was.
Let's rock.
But yeah. I mean, it's really pretty much at this point just the computer that I was already used to, except a little bit faster CPU, some more RAM, and a better motherboard with an integrated hard disk controller and things like that that I was hoping for. Yeah, I mean, I have all sorts of things that I could play, but whatever, man. This is mostly not meant for DOS games because really the AdLib compatibility on that Unreal Vortex 2 is not particularly great. I mean, the compatibility is fine. It just doesn't sound like a real AdLib card, you know, OPL 2 or 3. It's just emulated. But it's more for late 90s kind of games, anywhere from 1997 to 2001-ish. So we can run Quake 3 and other assorted kinds of things. All right. So this is the computer that I will be using going forward on LGR for a lot of different things. If I need something for, well, you know, late 90s, which is seemingly all the time. In fact, I have a few things planned already for this, like an Oddware episode or two, and anyway, well, I guess I'm just going to be playing freaking Quake 3 now. So, that's about it for the installation part of this. I just got one or two little tiny things to do to finish up the computer. First up, I want to get this SD interface mounted. And just gonna get that in right. Oh no! Oh no, crap! This stupid AMR interface, the audio modem riser, it's physically blocking me being able to put that in here. If only this were mounted like a little over this way. That is so stupid. I could either desolder the stupid riser, modify this, put this on like another kind of plate where it's moved down this way, or maybe just mount it in there somewhere. I don't know, man. In the meantime, I'm just gonna stick it down there. It won't fit there either because now it's going up against the PCI slots. It keeps bumping up against this side of it. What a stupid design. It's fine for now, it's working. I'll deal with that later. I'm gonna come up with some other mounting solution, but we can at least get this put back on there, looking spiffy. All right, thumb screws in place, and I'm gonna call this pretty much done. And to solidify its highly custom nature, I made some LGR case badges. They're quite nice, raised, metallic and everything, got a rubber finish and good stuff like that going on, so oh yeah. Now that is satisfying. And yes, I do sell these, not like all the time or anything, but I've had some small print runs made that I post every so often on Twitter, so keep an eye out if you're interested. I gotta say, I'm pretty pleased with how this has turned out for the time being. Definitely gotta get that SD card area figured out. Ugh. And the case is definitely a little darker green than I had initially intended. It almost looks black under the right lighting, but still, it at least has a unique aesthetic going on. And really, this is just a project box. I'm swapping out parts all the time. Who knows, it's Plasti Dip. I might just tear off all of what I've done and start over with another color in the future. For the moment though, I am going to call this project complete because at least I can now use this computer and it's ready to go for different projects that I have sitting on the sidelines. So I hope that you enjoyed this much longer and more involved video than I had planned. I've been working on this for about a month now, just, oh my goodness, the things that I've cut out, and this is what's resulted. So I hope that you enjoyed, and as always, thank you very much for watching LGR.